What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming to you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the box office for this past weekend. It should come to no one's surprise that Aquaman is indeed claiming the #1 spot at the box office, raking in so much more than its competitors, actually a lot more than I expected. I thought, honestly, that we would see a pretty good competition between Aquaman and Bumblebee, but we're actually not even seeing that much. Not only is Aquaman still doing well overseas, if everyone hasn't been paying attention, it opened in China about 2 weeks ago, and so far it's amassed about $350 million alone from its overseas markets, now looking to add another $70 million or so to the domestic market, which puts this movie pretty well on pace, not only to recoup its investment, but also to make money on top of that as well, potentially moving itself closer to the billion-dollar mark. But now I will say that because of the opening weekend, yes, $70 million is very good. However, if it was going to do better, if it was going to actually make $1 billion, I would have expected it to make a little bit more, maybe closer to the $100 million mark. And the reason why is because rule of thumb is that most big budget films make 60% of their entire box office take within the first 2 weeks of the film being released. Now, of course, we're in the Christmas season, so that means a lot more people are going to be able to see the movie, so that very well could be a factor into it. And I'll know a little bit more about it by next weekend, about how much money Aquaman is going to make. I still think there's a very good chance it's going to reach $1 billion at the box office, but I'll have a much better idea next weekend once we get the 2-week total in, and then just do some quick math, assume it's 60% of the total box office take, and then be able to figure out what is likely going to be the bottom end and the high end for what Aquaman will end up doing at the box office. But again, $70 million is pretty darn good for the very beginning. However, I just want to make a quick note about this article from Variety, because Variety obviously has no idea what it's talking about, just like much of the mainstream media these days. It says Warner Brothers gave the film a pricey $200 million budget, which it already has recouped overseas. That is not true. $200 million budget might be true. That means that the marketing was about $100 million, meaning the film overall cost around $300 million to make. However, remember that even though they've made about $350 million overseas, they only get 60% of that money. So actually, they haven't recouped it yet. They're very close to recouping it, and by the end of this weekend, I will say that they'll probably have broken even, which is a very, very good sign. Keep in mind that when Venom came out, it did very similar in terms of speed. Within the first 2 weeks or so, it had already recouped its investment and was still making money on top of that. And keep in mind that Venom is the 5th highest grossing film of 2018 with over like $800 million. So that means that this film is definitely on pace to possibly bump Venom out. Even though my own thoughts on the film are that it's not as great as people are trying to make it out to be, because that's just how I feel about it. I think that Black Manta is a total waste of time. I think that he's a wasted character. He should have been saved for another movie, and he was just shoehorned in to try and justify putting another character in there that comic book fans might like. But for a general audience member, all I saw was, okay, this character is not worth the screen time. You could have cut 20 minutes off this film, still told the story that you told. Probably would have been a tighter story altogether and would have been a better film overall. I gave it a C+ on my own channel. If you want to see my full review, go check out Odin's Movie Blog. Check out the full review of that. I still think it's a fun time. I think that a lot of people will have a fun time, but it is fun just to see a bunch of DCEU fanboys and fangirls attacking me saying, you just don't understand. Nah, 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 nah. It's like, no, look, we can have a difference of opinion, but don't try and act like you know better than me just because you're a DC fan. Again, that doesn't make you better than me. I'm not better than you either. I just, I'm honest, and I don't just, make up things for the sake of making things up. I'm always very honest with my own outlook on life. Anyway, so the box office coming in, so obviously it's a little bit early because I am leaving to go on vacation for the next week or so, and if you want to see more videos from me, I have videos scheduled every day this week, so check that out. But I will be back by the time next weekend comes around to give you an update about Aquaman and a lot of other things that are going on. But the last update that we had from BoxOfficeMojo.com, officially, the official estimates were Aquaman made $28 million, Bumblebee made $8 million. Now, as I said before, this was surprising to me because I knew Aquaman would be #1, and I thought that it would do well. I just did not think that Bumblebee would not do nearly as well. That was a little bit surprising to me to see the differential between those two movies. However, it does still make a little bit of sense with the current market of the films and also the release dates and everything to that effect and how that's affected. The one that is also very surprising to me is that Mary Poppins only made $6.7 million, and Mary Poppins might be on pace. I'm still a little bit too early. We're in the Christmas season, so a lot can change, but we very well could be on pace to see yet another Disney movie either barely break even or possibly flop. If you want to see the biggest flops of 2018, I just made a video for the Odin's Movie Blog channel breaking those down, and oh man, it's quite interesting. It's going to be coming out this week, because that's one of the videos that I decided to film, and it is very interesting to see. Obviously, you should know at this point what the highest, or rather what the biggest box office bomb of 2018 was, because I talked about it a lot on this channel especially, but it's very surprising how many Disney films lost the studio money. Now, they made a hell of a lot more, mostly thanks to the Marvel products films that they had coming out, but it's still worth noting that Disney made a lot of costly investments in films that did not perform. Mary Poppins Returns might be another one of those investments. It was a sequel that no one was really asking for, and even though people say it's fine, it's fun, and they got the right cast for it, it just overall feels like, you know, basically from what I've been hearing, it asks the question, why was this film even made in the first place? All right, but anyway, going into the Aquaman numbers itself, so as you can see here, worldwide its rate amounts to $364.8 million. I suspect by the end of this weekend, we'll see that number closer to $400 million, meaning that this film is already within the first weekend of its domestic run and within 2 weeks of its foreign run, looking to easily outpace Solo: A Star Wars Story, which was indeed the biggest buzz of 2018. But again, more information on that in my own video on my own channel coming out this week. But still, worth noting, the foreign market 91%, domestic 9%. That makes sense only because of the fact that it's been out in the foreign market for much longer than that, but it's always good for a movie to have that kind of foreign dynamic. And as I said before about the runtime and with Black Manta, again, keep in mind, 2 hour and 20 minute film. This movie could have been a crisp and brisk 2-hour movie and would have been so much better from a story perspective had they just cut Black Manta out altogether. I'm sure I'll get some hate in the comments because guess what? That's all DC fans know how to do these days. Bumblebee, on the other hand, Bumblebee is very surprising. Again, this is the first weekend that's out. It came out this weekend, and it's only made $8.46 million. Now, of course, this is very early estimates. This is only including Friday, but that's a very low number for Friday. I thought Bumblebee, again, it's a Transformers film, so Transformers films tend to make money. The last film was the only one that really didn't make any money because people are just so tired of Transformers. It looks like that Transformers fatigue, of which there probably is an actual thing called Transformers fatigue, but it has more to do with the fact that they were tired. Audiences are tired of the same old crap that kept coming out. Bumblebee, though, is a breath of fresh air, and so I thought this film would do a little bit better because the marketing campaign was absolutely fantastic. But with these kind of numbers, I am kind of worried. Again, a production budget of $135 million, meaning that this film costs over $200 million to make, and therefore it needs to make well over $400 million just to recoup its investment. And I think that it will. I honestly think that this is just an early number. I think that once we get the actual weekend estimates, the number will be a little bit higher. But at this point, it is a little bit lower than I thought, especially for that Friday look, because as I said before, Aquaman 28 million, Bumblebee 8.4 million. That is very low. I thought that it would be a little bit closer. I thought Bumblebee might be closer to about 15 million, maybe even closer to $20 million. I just did not see that coming, so that is very interesting. Mary Poppins Returns, as I said before, they should be worried because I know that it probably cost them over $100 million to make this film. I know people might say, how did it cost that much? Well, they took a lot of visual effects for this film. It's a Disney film, so obviously they're going to spend a lot of money on it, and so far it's only made $15 million domestically. Don't see this film really being a huge splash overseas. Very well could, especially in the UK. But at the end of the day, I think that this might just be a film by Rob Marshall that won't exactly deliver, but still very early. So who knows at this point? But all I can say is that it is, without question, a very bad start nonetheless. And just again, Aquaman looks to lead the long Christmas box office. This was something that they put out several days ago, but it is indeed looking like it's going to be the film that's going to be the main film. That's, you know, I don't think anyone in their right mind, if you had asked them before this film came out and before reviews started coming out, I would not be, you know, a lot of people probably would have said, no, Aquaman's not going to be doing very well because you look to the history of DC films. They haven't done nearly as well as other films, but it looks like Aquaman might finally be the movie that they need to get DC moving in the right direction, at least money-wise. Story-wise, I think there's still a lot that needs to be done to make DC films more palatable. And here's the thing, is a lot of times they say, oh, it's not made for critics, it's not made for these people. Well, the problem is that when you look to the differences that exist between Marvel and DC films, Marvel films are not just made for Marvel fans, they're also made for general audiences. DC films up to this point have mostly been made for comic book fans, and even then have not done a very good job at bringing in comic book fans because there's been some split among that community as well. But it has been very clear that general audiences have not really been drawn to them as much, which means that each of these films is missing something. I don't know quite what it is, but it's just missing a certain quality to try and bring those types of people in. So that's one thing that the DCEU needs to start doing going forward. I think James Wan is a great person to helm Aquaman's future going forward. However, if he can just tighten it up a little bit, cut a little bit of the fat off, don't put in useless characters, don't put in characters that end up being like Captain Phasma or Boba Fett, or they're in there and there might be a little bit, you know, they might seem really cool, but then you don't really do anything with them. don't be like that, James Wan. You're a lot better than that. And hopefully you're able to continue the Aquaman universe, and you're able to, take the good things you did, because there were a lot of good things done in Aquaman. The visual effects were actually very well done for the most part. There were definitely some scenes where it was a little bit of CGI noise, and it was just it was not very good, especially when they took CGI elements into the real world, because I always hate when studios do that in general, because if you can use real world effects, and you can use actual studios and, on location stuff, do that. Don't just make everything CGI. You're better than that. But overall, it is still very good. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts on this? Do you think that Aquaman is indeed going to be the movie that's going to just destroy the Christmas break? I really do think it is. I think it's going to be the #1 film over the Christmas holidays. Bumblebee, though, I'm honestly very surprised. The fact that it only made $2 million more than Mary Poppins Returns, the fact that Mary Poppins Returns only made 6.7 on Friday, makes me kind of concerned that we might indeed have, and by concerned, I don't really mean worried, but concerned for the studio as far as losing money on an investment. Mary Poppins Returns looks to be a financial bust for them, and that is not good, because they have had several busts this year. And again, if you want more information on that, stay tuned to my channel, Oda's Movie Blog, to find out more about it. But anyway, guys, if you like this video, smash that like button, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. It helps a lot. Helps us out a lot. You're amazing, beautiful people. This is gonna be the last video that I have before Christmas on this channel, so I hope you all have a very blessed and Merry Christmas. That's right, on this channel, we do not shy away from it. We want you all to have a very Merry Christmas. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.